Okay.
starting off with.
I feel like at this point, this must just be like clocking in for your day job at this point. You know, media day, weigh-ins, fight, media day, weigh-ins, fight. Is that right?
Yeah, after so many years with the UFC, it becomes never old hat, would I say. But it's routine. You know, I treat it like a wrestling match, just as I treat my fights. You know, I enjoy the process. I enjoy every fight week. That's why I think, it was so nice to come out of the COVID fights, and be back and seeing everyone, also all these old faces and new faces, and just being able to, be out and move around in the hotels and go check out some of the great cities that the UFC books their fights at. And so it's always awesome to be out and about, and great to be in the fun city of Austin.
I feel like usually when guys have been fighting for as long as you, every time you come to a media day, everyone's like, well, how many have you got left? But it seems like you kind of avoid that because you just keep fighting so frequently. It's like we can't really ask you, well, is there one left, two left? It seems like you're going to go forever.
Absolutely. Forever's a long time. Definitely don't want to be doing this into my 50s because there's a lot of water out there that I got to fish and a lot of places I want to visit. But yeah, man, we're still staying on the gas pedal. We're going to keep on trucking. And as long as I'm having fun and I'm able-bodied and I'm competing at the highest level, you're going to see us in the octagon.
Everyone who does a job for a decent period of time will go through burnout periods and then back into it periods. How have you been able to consistently work through any of those periods? Or has it just been every single time I've just kept the same love the whole way through?
You know what? That's a very, very good question. I think a lot of people in sports, maybe in life, sometimes, get burnt out of, the certain process. But my thing was, what is the alternative? Do I want to go back to working as a carpenter? Do I want to go back to not a 9-to-5 job, but a 7-to-3 job and being up at 4:30 in the morning back in Illinois when it was, the freezing cold Midwest winters, when it would be 10, 15 degrees out in the morning. You got to drive to the job site. Sometimes the air compressor doesn't work. Sometimes the generator doesn't start up. You know what I mean? And it's just bitter cold. Or on the other hand, it would be, one of those hot Midwest summers in Chicago in the suburbs, and it'd be 95 degrees and 105-degree humidity, and you're up on a roof, building a roof, and it's just like, man. That was awesome at the time. In my early 20s, it's a great way to make a living. It's an honest living. It makes you tough. I love putting people in homes. I think it's great, but I knew I was meant for something greater, and I knew I was, put on this earth to compete. I didn't know what it was in. I always wanted to be playing for the Chicago Cubbies. I always wanted, my buddy over here, Brad, who flew in, he's a commercial pilot. We played baseball and football growing up, Pee Wee League and Pop Warner League. I wanted to, be a professional baseball player. Then I wanted to, play the Bears. I wore number 51 growing up because Dick Butkus was my favorite football player. Rest in peace, the man, the myth, the legend. But unfortunately, I stopped growing my freshman year in high school, so I was stuck with wrestling, and I loved it, man. So I knew I was, going to do something along, on the sports side of things. And, we found something that we've been pretty successful at, and we're just going to keep on going, man.
For sure. Let me ask you this then. Is the worst day as a fighter better than the best day as a carpenter?
100%, man. I love the nickname, but I'd much rather get in the gym and get beat up than have to be, humping 3/4-inch plywood up and down the ladders, man, and working on a job site, getting yelled at by a foreman who doesn't care, doesn't know your name, and weather that you don't want to be in, man. But, we found our niche, and we're going to stick with it.
Yeah. What do we make of the opponent this Saturday? I feel like at this point they're all just a blur to you, and you're getting in there and doing your thing and bouncing around doing whatever, or do we come in with a specific game plan?
Absolutely, man. Obviously the last fight was not, I didn't prove anything that I've, of any improvement, unfortunately. It was one of the old Guida, just stand there and bang fights. It was not, a very solid fighting Rafa Garcia, who's heavy-handed, good takedown defense. So, we're going to get back to, being more technical and just, taking the fight to where we want it. So we're going to push that high pace, lay on the gas pedal, take this fight to the ground.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, man.
Hey, Clay. I'm kind of following up on that. When he was in here earlier, he said he expected, that high octane, that high gas tank from you, but he also said he expects a finish. So I'm curious, how do you see the fight actually, concluding on Saturday?
Oh, man. My opponent is, Joaquin Silva is a very, very heavy-handed striker, and he's got phenomenal jiu-jitsu. It says it in his name. That's his nickname too, you know. So we definitely have a tough challenge ahead of us, which we always welcome. You know, but the tougher the fighter, the more skilled, I feel like we compete even better, and you know, we come out on top. So yeah, we have to be aware of those big punches. You know, he rung Arman Sarukian's bell in their fight, and we got to keep our hands up, and we got to just press forward, try to get him to the fence, and you know, do our thing from there. But yeah, we know we're going to see the best Joaquin Silva, and I can't wait to get in there and mix it up with him on Saturday.
And I want to kind of go back to one of the earlier questions as well. When Miesha Tate was in here a minute ago, she talked about, you know, at this point in her career, wins and losses don't necessarily like define like her attitude like after the fact, right? Where are you at on that point? Not that you don't care about winning or losing, but does it still have like that same, I guess, grip on your mental aspect after the outcome of the fight?
For sure. You know what? To me, just competing, you know, is winning for me. Competing at the highest level, you know, at my age, even though, you know, I'm 41 going on 21. I'm in better shape now than when I was 21, better in shape than when I was 25. But to be able to compete with some of the, you know, the best fighters in the world, lightweight's one of the best, one of the best weight classes in the UFC, in the entire world too. So to be at that upper echelon, you know, is for so long, you know, it speaks volumes. So yeah, wins and losses, I haven't paid attention. When people ask, hey, what's your record? I tell them it's not good enough. You know what I mean? But you watch the next one because we're going to make good on it, and we're going to get our hand raised. So to me, that's what it's all about. Being healthy and going out there and fighting, you know, our best and putting our best foot forward and leaving it out there for the fans.
And for a guy like yourself with, you know, the historic resume that you've built over the years, how important would it be for you to get on the UFC 300, that big milestone card?
Man, tell you what, I've always, the movie 300, you know, I've always wanted to be part of that, you know what I mean? But I think the next best thing would be fighting on UFC 300. We started at UFC 64. I don't think there's too many people that can say they've been through 200 pay-per-views, not to mention all of the fight nights, all of the tough finales, all of the other events. So that would be a milestone in our career.
Wrestling is life.
100%, man. I'll say it again. Wrestling is life. I can't wait to get out there, man, and pick this guy up and run around the cage, man.
Cool moment for me. You know, 9 years ago, I was, you know, performing in front of you at the State Farm Center over in Champaign. So here I am covering one of your fights.
What'd you go to, man?
I was at St. Charles East.
All right, good man.
Fighting Saints.
Awesome, man.
So I think this number's right, but 7,431 days on Saturday would be since your first ever fight. And wow, pioneering this fight game. What keeps you motivated? What keeps you motivated to take on a new generation of fighters?
That's a great question, man. First of all, I got to ask, was Jason Potter, was one of your coaches?
Jay Potter.
Legend, man. Got to see him win a state title, man, back in, I think, 95 or 96. Him or his brother. Studs, man. Got to wrestle with one of the greatest.
Yes, sir.
That's incredible, man. The sport of wrestling keeps me always coming back. You know, when I was a kid, like I said before, I always wanted to be a professional athlete. I chose wrestling instead. I loved it. I had a passion for it. I never excelled like you did. I never even made it downstate ever in the state of Illinois. So there was things I didn't do young in my age that kept me motivated to still, you know, to succeed later in life, you know, and slow learner. So that's why, you know, I'm still, you know, going at it, you know, the ripe age of 41 years old, man. But yeah, if wrestling got me here, that's what's going to keep me here, and that is my motivation. I love in between fights being able to go help, you know, coach at Izzy Style Wrestling, go back up and coach at, you know, Spartan Wrestling up in Johnsburg, Illinois, and yeah, just see where the sport has, you know, come from and where it's going. Wrestling, I think, is more popular now than it's ever been. It's awesome to see the Iowa versus Iowa State duel on Sunday on ESPN. Such an amazing, close duel. Two incredible universities, you know, and you know, get to put it on, you know, on the line at you know, at Iowa State, where Dan Gable wrestled, where Carol Sanderson wrestled, where Bono wrestled, and so much, you know, such an amazing legacy. So it would be awesome to see, you know, wrestling get displayed more on ESPN. But yeah, that's one of my main motivations, is just the love of the sport of wrestling and how it got me into mixed martial arts.
Any goals left in your career? I mean, you've done it all. Is there anything you're just trying to beat, You know, you're always chasing a goal. Is there a goal, or is it just go to beat someone up?
Yeah, that too is always a good one. I got two main ones right now, man. And Jim Miller's holding on to the one right now. He's got the most fights in UFC history. I want to be the longest tenured fighter of all time. And I want to have the most takedowns, man. Going back to wrestling once again. I know it doesn't mean a whole lot to most people, but to me, being a kid who never made it downstate, I wrestled at junior college, to be able to hold that one record in the UFC to me would mean a lot to myself and my brother Jason, who got me in the sport of wrestling, got me into fighting. So those little things would be moral victories for myself. So once again, wrestling is life, man.
Wrestling is life.
Got
Are
it.
you just ready for who they throw at your way next, or is there someone you're just like, let's go, let's take one right here?
Hey, man, I've said it 100 times. If Nate Diaz ever wants to run it back again, man, I know he's on to bigger and better things now, but Nate and I danced a long time ago. It was a good time. I got my hand raised. It's not too often you give some guy a chance for a rematch, but if they ever wanted to do that one, it'd be a lot of fun. But I'm sure he's out enjoying life like he deserves to, man. So we're up for whoever at this point, man. And that's another thing. We just want to, keep fighting, guys with names and guys that are up and comers. Doesn't matter to us. I feel like that's what makes us different than everyone. That the UFC is throwing a name out at us, and we sign up, and we're ready to go all the time. Thank you, sir. Cool.